Okay, we are
Yay!
live. Yay!
Yay!
Welcome to the return cart. My name is Chrissy, and we are here with Kathryn Bradley, and she's going to tell us about her newest release, which is The Best Medicine.
Yes, so Best Medicine is a small town contemporary romance. Well, I like to call it a contemporary rom com because I think it's got some of the funny shenanigans of a romantic comedy, but I think it's more contemporary romance. It's about Blair Hoffman, who has recently taken custody of her younger twin siblings. She's moving to this small town in North Carolina to start over. She ends up meeting a local bartender, and they don't get along very well at first, and end up deciding to work together for mutual aims. And there's a whole fake dating thing, and it's a lot of fun. And it's going to be the first in a series of books. There's going to be, I think, 5 books total. I get confused, but yes, 5 books. And the next book, The Good Part, is coming out in January, which is going to be good. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Excellent. So this is the first in the series, and the good part is the next in the series. And what is the series
Yes,
called?
the Holly Tree series. It's based on a fictional town in North Carolina called Holly Tree, based off of my hometown in North Carolina.
Oh, excellent. And
Yeah.
so the first book actually has a preview of the couple that we're going to get in the good part.
And yeah, Mandy and Asher. Mandy is Blair's best friend, or Amanda goes by Mandy, is Blair's best friend. She is a plus size model, very successful. And Asher is Leo's best friend. He is a painter, and he kind of keeps to himself, and he's very shy, very introverted. And um, but they've got a lot more in common than you would think. And their story is probably one of my favorite that I've written so far. And so I'm really excited for that to come out in January.
Yes. And yes, Daphne, welcome to Holly Tree, this series.
Hi,
So,
Daphne.
yes, hello. One thing I wanted to talk about was, for one, your inspiration to even do a contemporary series. So, first, is a series kind of what you had in mind to begin with, or did The Best Medicine sort of start out as a standalone and did it blossom from there?
I think I always knew I wanted to do a series because I love a good romance like series where it's interconnected because you get to sort of fall in love with a family or community, and by the time you get to the last book, you're like, wow, like I love these people so much. You get to read all these different stories from these different perspectives. So I think I went in uh, to planning out the best medicine thinking, okay, this is going to be a series. I want to write about this family or center around this family in this small town. And so, yeah, there is a certain amount of planning I think that goes in. Like, I mean, you focus on the book you're writing for the most part, but I think you are mindful of like, okay, I know what couples or what people I want to feature in later books, and you got to kind of lay the groundwork for that. But you don't want to pay too much attention to it and take away. So there is a balance. But yes, I very much have an idea of who all is going to end up with who. Most of all of the characters, there's one character that is going to be in a book that I haven't, that he's going to be introduced in the good part. So he's the only one that hasn't been introduced yet. But
Ah,
all of the other characters have been introduced that are going to be in their own books. And I'm also planning to do a spinoff of, well, not a spinoff, but I'm gonna do another series. It's gonna run sort of tangentially with the Holly Tree series, um, and the Holly Tree series takes place in what we call the Piedmont in North Carolina. So that's central North Carolina, like near Charlotte. And the this new series that I'm planning is kind of like a mountain murder mystery series. It's going to take place in the Smoky Mountains. It's going to be connected through a way that's going to become clear in the good part. So I've kind of there's a lot of working pieces, but it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun doing it.
oh, excellent. And Daphne puts out, you should have heard me yell when I figured out who one couple would be. I think I think I know which couple you're talking about. I don't want to give too much away, but there is one couple I am very much rooting for, and that is uh Gemma's coupling. I'll just put out that.
Yeah, Gemma is well, I'm excited about Gemma because I think that the person that she is meant to end up with has maybe been a little dumb, and so she gets to kind of get out there and be like, you know what, I don't need you, like, and he's gonna end up being the one to do the chasing, essentially, whoever that
I'm
may be.
sorry. I'm a little bit happy for that because I
Yeah.
don't know, there's a good like groveling kind of
Oh,
thing
there.
that's always great.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be. Gemma's gonna have her whole, because I mentioned, I don't think this is a huge spoiler, but Gemma's mother is from England, so I think I mentioned that like it very haphazardly at some point. It was relevant to her background, but her mom's from England, so she's gonna go on this trip. It's gonna be like her, and so somebody might follow her to England. I don't know what's
Who
going
knows?
on.
You guys need to
I
read the
don't know.
book to figure it out.
I don't know,
I
but I have. Go ahead.
Oh no, by all means. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just gonna say it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, admittedly, I love it when romance series does that. Is when they give you previews of what
Mhm.
characters are gonna get together with who, and then you're just like, well,
Mhm.
how is this gonna happen? Like, it's one of my favorite things
Oh,
to happen
same.
in romance.
Same. I love it. I love it. You get little Easter eggs that you get to collect. It's so much fun.
Yes, and I think when reading this book, that's why I was interested in like how exactly you plan that because that uh, like I've been reading a lot of romance series and it's like was
Mhm.
that the plan all along or is that
Right?
not going to
Mhm.
be? Hmm.
I do
So,
that all the time, and yeah, I do that
oh
all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. And so I guess my question is like are you pretty much it sounds like you're in the middle of being like a planner and a pantser like
Yeah, well, I think there's a balance. I don't think, I mean, for me, it's, I have to have an idea of where things are going, and I'll write out an outline sometimes, but I don't necessarily hold myself to it if things get um things kind of inspire me, you know. So I that's what I always say when people are like, "Oh, are you a plotter or a pantser?" Is I think, there's a balance. You have some people that are like 100% plotters or 100% pantsers, but I think a lot of people sort of kind of exist in those middle ground where it's like you got to have an idea of where it is you're going, but at the end of the day, you gotta, wherever inspiration kind of takes you, you know.
yeah, exactly. Are you finding
Mm.
that with because you're currently writing the good part, which is
Right.
Mandy's
Yes.
storyline. Are you currently
Mhm.
finding that where there's some parts where you're like, I had this plan, but the characters are kind of taking it in its own direction?
You know what? It's funny you ask that. Is that yes? These characters are a lot more alive to me, and I think the more alive characters feel, the more they're gonna take on minds of their own. Um, I just feel very viscerally connected to to this pair, and I'm not saying I obviously felt very connected to Blair and Leo too, but it's just you have and I just it's been fun to kind of watch this slowly develop over time, and I had their story in the back of my mind when I was writing the best medicine. And the whole thing about the good part is that oh, did we lose you?
No, I'm still here. Just for some reason, my
Oh,
camera is going to go on and off. My apologies, guys. I didn't even
okay.
touch anything.
Oh no, it's okay. Well, I was just saying the good part is about like, Mandy is a model and she's been working really, really hard, and she's always just putting off all of these things. Like she's like, oh, I haven't gone on vacation. I haven't been spending time with my friends or my families, but I'm gonna I just gotta get to the good part. Like we all put off things in life, like where I'll take care of this, I'll take care of that. I just as soon as I do this. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. So I think it's gonna be I think I'm gonna really enjoy getting this out there into the world for sure.
Oh, I think so. I think it's already great.
Ah,
And one
thank you.
thing that I noticed with the best medicine, and I'm noticing with the good part when you talk about it on TikTok, you guys should follow her on TikTok. But and it's that I hate to use this word, but you have kind of unconventional main characters in that
Hmm.
like with the best medicine, you have a character who has OCD.
Right. Um, I think with I'm neurodivergent myself. Thank you, Daphne. I'm neurodivergent myself, and it's funny now we have words like neurodivergent that we can say with it to understand those things. But growing up, those identifiers weren't always available. So I did think I have learned a lot about OCD myself in the past couple of years. People I love who are afflicted by it. Like I said, I've struggled with anxiety for most of my life. And so uh, writing Blair's character, and I mean, I did a lot of research about OCD when I was writing it and just learning about it. It is so much more complex than people in the media want to make it out to be. Like, oh, it's just I gotta have everything organized, I gotta have, that it's not. It's so much more than that. The people say like, oh, I've got to have my shoes organized just so because I'm so OCD. Like how flippantly people say that, when in reality it's so much more, and it can be. And I think, it adds for Blair in particular. She knows that she has OCD. She's been diagnosed, and she knows how to take care of herself. But she's gone through a huge trauma, and she is doing what so many of us do when we're going through something where she buries her head in the sand and kind of just like focusing on taking care of herself, taking care of the twins, like, getting up and going to work and making sure that they have food on the table. And she's not, because you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of others. I'm a 1000% uh, believe in that myself personally. And so I think that was what I was trying to do with her character, was show that even somebody as strong and as put together as she is sometimes still it's somebody who knows that they have OCD and they know how to take care. Sometimes it's still going to be a struggle, because that's just part of life.
Oh, definitely. And your book is a rom-com, but what I liked the most about it is I did not expect to be in my feels as much as I was with this book, by the way. Like, I actually teared up a few times on some of the
Oh,
feelings parts. But one of it was that I'm so grateful that the OCD and her anxiety was not made fun of. Like, it wasn't the butt of a
right,
joke.
right.
Um, and so was that kind of an important aspect for you of
Absolutely.
making sure it wasn't?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I don't think anybody it's never, especially if you're struggling with something so personal. And so I personally don't think it, anything like that's funny. I'm somebody who loves humor, and I love making people laugh, and I love laughing. I have never found anything. If you're making a joke at somebody's expense and it's not, you can't say, "Oh, I'm laughing with you." I've never found anything like that funny. So it would never even occur to me to to do something like that. And it also like I think you're right. I did have to go out of my way to be like, this is not funny. This is just a part of who she is. And there are people out there who live with this every single day, and it's not, it's, and so, yeah.
Yeah, because at the beginning we get a little bit of hints of it at the beginning,
Mhm.
but the moment I was like, "Is this? Is this?" was
Right.
when she is wondering if she forgot to turn off the oven.
Right.
Because
Mhm.
I was like, I said I had never really felt so seen in that moment because there's been
Right.
times when I like catastrophized in that kind of way where I'm like,
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
I turn off this thing? My house is gonna burn down and then I'm gonna be living in a box. Like,
Exactly. Well, and intrusive thoughts are so powerful, and they can, especially anxiety can be so debilitating, because even if you are like, logically in your mind, you're like, I know I turned the oven off. I know I turned it off. I remember turning it off, but there's still that voice or that feeling that you're like, that's telling you, but what if you didn't? But what if you didn't? And it's that voice that's going to have you going back and checking, and it can be debilitating.
yes, definitely. Oh, sorry. A hint for anyone who does suffer with this, that I found, which has been amazing, that I got
Mm.
advice from a therapist, was take a picture of some of the things that you get most,
That is a good thing.
that
That's
especially
a
since we have mobile phones and stuff like that. Like, take a picture of it, and
right,
then you can look what's the date and what's the time. And I found that to
right.
be a little bit on the helpful side. Like, so just
That
in
is
case there's anyone
helpful.
helpful.
That's a good suggestion.
Thank you. I try. Like I said, I have major anxieties with that kind of stuff too. So I was
Yeah.
really grateful to see another character go through that because I find that I don't see a lot of characters like that in books right now.
Right? Yeah. It's all I mean, I feel like mental health, I mean, romance I've always said is one of the great, I don't know, I might be alone in this, but I feel like romance is a great vehicle for social change. Like, and not maybe not a vehicle, but it allows you to talk about like issues and different types of people in a way that other genres I feel like don't always let you. So I do think that we're starting to see some more discussion of mental health is like in the romance genre in particular, but I do think we need to start having a discussion as a community about the kind of care we show to characters we're going to write with those with mental illness or mental disorders.
Right. So this is actually leading me into kind of TikTok and the book sphere in TikTok, some of the
Mm-hmm.
controversies that have ended up happening. And one of them
Oh
is
goodness.
this, yeah. So we're talking about the big stuff. But one of it is like how exactly we portray characters because like I told you I was going to bring up one thing from the book talk sphere, but I'm going to bring
Right.
up actually two now.
Go for it.
Uh,
Go for it.
the one of them is how we showcase characters because now there's
Mm-hmm.
this, well, we're kind of leaning on stereotypes in certain
Mm-hmm.
books, and now people are actually speaking up. They're like, no, this is not a great way to showcase this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stereotype. So I guess like I'm trying to lead this to a question. I don't know necessarily know how to
No,
lead
okay.
that in, but what are your kind of thoughts on that? Is this um kind of change happening or is there a change and can we kind of facilitate it to a more healthy way?
Well, my general rule of thinking, and I personally think that if you have a member of a marginalized community it's coming to you, and you're not a member of that marginalized community, and you've written a character that is a member of that marginalized community, and then a real life, living, breathing member of that marginalized community comes forward and says, "Hi, the way you wrote this is harmful," then you have a responsibility as an author to take a step back and say, "Okay, I recognize that, and let's figure out how I can do, or I'll figure out." You take responsibility for that, and you say, "How?" Because I'm not gonna say I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm still new to this, and I'm always gonna try and show care to my characters and show care to my readers because that's something you also, you got to think about the people that are going to be reading this, and if the way I'm portraying a certain character is going to cause more harm, then don't do it. But even if I did, like one day have somebody come forward and say, "Hey, the way you wrote this character is harmful." I don't understand the, like, why wouldn't you just be like, "Okay, like this is a learning opportunity for me, an opportunity to grow," And so I do think that we've seen people who are reacting very positively to this kind of feedback, and we're also seeing people who are reacting not so positively, and I think it's very telling, moving forward, um, where the community is going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've seen some people like double down on it and some
Hmm.
people like really take lengths to actually change it, which has been nice as well. So
Hmm.
hopefully this kind of helps catapult some changes
Right.
that are kind of sorely missing because I think one of the most recent ones was pretty much how we see people who have severe mental illnesses and
Right.
like yeah, it's a whole conundrum I think that ends up happening on that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
I definitely think you're right.
oh, yeah. And so my second thing is a little less filled with gravity, but rather
Yeah.
tropes. So there was a
Oh.
video on TikTok that said that tropes were ruining things and that all this kind of stuff that they are bad. But I don't necessarily agree with that. And I know that, Kathryn, when you do your marketing for your book, you actually use tropes to kind of
Hmm.
showcase what's going to be in it. So, what are your thoughts on tropes and how they're utilized?
I think tropes are a part of fiction. I think that because there is no such thing as a completely original story. That doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for a long time. So anybody who tells stories, whether you're telling it through books, through TV shows, through movies, through video games, whatever, um, you're telling some version of a story that's already been told. And all you're doing as an author or creator is putting your own spin on it. And at the root of that, and so, that's tropes. We're all working off some sort of some form of the same original blueprint, like whether it's, like, this is specific to romance, obviously, but whether it's fake dating or marriage of convenience or enemies to lovers, all of that. Like, these are things that people say, like, oh, these are the way that people connect to new stories, is the way people like, oh, I know I like this trope in this story, now I want to read it in, I'm gonna look for other stories that have this trope. I don't really understand, like, what he was even trying to say, is because, I mean, like, in terms of, like, tropes ruining literature. I guess I'm not entirely sure, but I just thought that whole video was ridiculous, absolutely absurd.
Like, I think what gets me about the tropes ruining literature thing is that it kind of ignores the fact that literature has tropes. Like,
Yes,
even,
all
guess
literature.
what? Even classics have their
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
tropes. And also, hello,
Well, like,
Mindy. Thanks for
hi.
joining us. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, I would say, like, Pride and Prejudice is, like, one of the most classic romance, and I mean, I would say at the very least it's antagonists to lovers, right?
Mhm.
And it's got other tropey things. And what's another good one, like, Jane Eyre? You got forced proximity. You got nanny, single dad. Like, they're not, I guess, not really single dad, but sort of single dad. You know what I mean? Because
I feel
the
I
kid's like
feel
his
that could be a
ward, I
new
think.
series.
Yeah, well, it's there,
Tropes
and
within classics.
yeah, it'd be like, if you, I mean, I don't know, it's probably different because back then they didn't even realize it was what they were doing with the tropes, but you know what I mean? People like stories, they like specific things in stories, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's a way for us to connect and reach out. And I think that anybody who says that anything is ruining literature is it I've never heard anybody say any kind of sentence that even sounds remotely like that and not sound pretentious. Like, it's ridiculous.
It kind of reminds me. I did creative writing back when I got out of high school into college. So that was my bachelor's degree, was in English creative writing, and there was this whole, like, conversations around the Kindle, because the Kindle had
Oh my
just
gosh.
came
Mm-hmm.
out, like, not that long ago, and you had, like, some other competition coming out, like the Kobo just had released their
Or
version
Nook.
of it. The Nook had just released and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. And this is when you saw the downshifting of physical books for a little while. Like, it was a dip because
A
it
little
came back
while,
up,
yeah.
right? But we saw that downshift and people panicked. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
these ebooks are going to ruin what writing could be and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, it hasn't, though. It's actually just made things a little bit more accessible. We're starting to see more global buying because of things like ebooks.
Well, no,
What?
that's, you actually just, that you actually, and that's what I meant. That's what I meant to say, but I forgot. Um, what you said about making it more accessible is that people will always say that literature is being ruined. It always somehow coincides with literature becoming more accessible. So, like, tropes, for a lot of people, tropes attract people to certain things. Like, for, like, I know a lot of people, like, when I was much younger, I read fan fiction, and I know that we talk that a lot more. Fan fiction's is a very tropey place. It's just all tropes, and and so I kind of grew up into started reading more books. Not that, you grow up, I still read fan fiction sometimes. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of with my progression into reading romance, was because I wanted to read more stories with these tropes. And lo and behold, there was this whole genre of books that I could find. And I think that it attracted me to books more than anything else. And I think that when people say literature is being ruined by something, invariably what they're saying is that it's become more accessible to people, and they don't like that.
Yeah, it's not on this echelon of elitism that
Mm,
some people want it to be, like the mountain that you have to climb.
right. Exactly. It's exactly what it is.
Oh yeah. So speaking of tropes, what are some of the tropes in The Best Medicine, and then what are some of the tropes that are in The Good Part?
So the best medicine has lots of tropes. It's a small town, fake dating, grumpy sunshine, where I don't like to say reverse grumpy sunshine, because I don't think that the woman being sunshine and the man being grumpy is necessarily the default, but I would say that it's a grumpy sunshine unit where Blair is kind of the grumpy one and Leo is the sunshiny one, sort of. Some enemy, so again, also enemies to lovers, but more antagonists to lovers, just like not enemies per se. But
well, I mean, she did hit him with a car, so
true. So that's fair. And then you have I just said fake dating, but then and in the good part, it's a little, so you have forced proximity, and that it's gonna the good part is basically she's taking a break from her career as this she's very busy all the time. She's a model and she's working herself ragged. She takes a break to go spend the summer with Blair and Holly Tree.
Mm-hmm.
And she's staying with them at their house. It's very crowded. And Asher, who it's vaguely mentioned in The Best Medicine, has a guest apartment on his property.
Right.
And he's been invited to submit a piece to this exhibition of Southern artists, and it requires that the painting has to be done from a live model. And he had a live model work lined up, and something happens, she can't do it. And so he sees Mandy, and he's obviously super. It's a little insta-lovey on his side, I will say. I know some people don't like that. But that's just, he sees her and he's like, wow. And he's like, it's not a good idea. I cannot do that. Like, I'm like that. No. Like, not going down that road. But then he realizes, like, like I have one of the best models in the world right here. Like, and I have a house that she can stay in. Like, this is too, like, I mean, it's stupid. Like, I'm going to have to at least offer it. And he's like, I can control myself. Like, I can not catch feelings. I'll be fine. And he, they work out this deal, and she poses for him, and it's very intimate, because, I actually had to do a lot of research into how artists will work with live models. And, I always thought it would be like Titanic, where he's like sitting a few feet away and like sketching, but it's a week's, it's sometimes, especially depending on the artist, but apparently it can sometimes be like a weeks long process. Like, he'll like take pictures of her hands and look at the way because you want to study the way a person's body moves specifically, because it informs how you have to become intimately familiar if you want to do a good job. And so it definitely creates this very forced proximity. And so that's one trope. And then artist and muse trope is another good one. And I would say Insta Love is another one that I mentioned on his side. She's kind of oblivious because he's so bad at expressing himself. He's very quiet and reserved. He's like painfully awkward when it comes to women. And you don't think that when she's like looking at this guy. He's tall, rugged, like very, attractive. And, you don't associate shyness and extreme sensitivity with that. And so she just does not pick up on it. She's like, okay, it's just a weird guy who, I don't know, I'm just gonna like it. And he's just like always working up the sort of the nerve to talk to her. One I've already mentioned this in a video, but one scene I'm really excited about that I've already kind of teased in a TikTok is he finally gets the nerve. So Mandy has she's very into the environment and like climate change and all that stuff, and especially with bees. She's very into saving the bees, and she's got a platform as a model. She does a lot of work with raising awareness about saving the bees. And so one time after they start working together, Asher works up the nerve to talk to her, and she mentions that she works with this Saving the Bees initiative, and he just blurts, like, unsure of what else to say. It's like, oh, I love bees. Bees are the greatest, but he's terrified of bees. And so she invites him to go with her to go volunteer. She's going to volunteer with this bee rescue. These people who rescue, I don't know if you've seen on TikTok, there's this woman that rescue bees. And so Mandy's going to volunteer with this place while she's in North Carolina, and she invites him to go with her. And he has to now because he said that he loves bees.
Well, he loves bees.
So it's just that kind of dynamic, which I'm really excited about.
I love that. Mindy, love fake dating, forced proximity, enemy lovers. So do I.
Those
You
are
are
some
not
good ones.
alone. Those are some
Fake
good ones.
dating.
Primo. Fake dating and marriage of convenience are like my
Oh,
two.
marriage. Oh, so good. Fake dating, fake engagement.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's probably
amazing.
why I like historical romances so much too, is
I
because you're more
do.
inclined to get marriage of convenience, where that's a lot harder nowadays to like pull that
Yeah,
off.
it's always something like marriage of convenience. That I've had somebody ask me if I would ever write a marriage of convenience, and I would love to, but I have to find something that like I feel like hasn't been done, because marriage of convenience I feel like is so hard to do contemporary, because like, you know, like you said, in historical romance, there's always, because marriage was such a different thing back then. So it makes more sense. It's so much harder to do. So I have so much respect for the authors that do it well in contemporary romance.
Oh yeah, and anyone who can make that work and make it like flow really well, especially in contemporary
Hmm.
times, like A+ to you, because
Hmm.
that's one of those tropes that's just not going to be as
I
easy to achieve.
right. But it's a good one. It's a good one. That and fake
Oh,
dating.
okay.
Absolutely.
Jade says their story sounds great
Hi,
already.
Jade.
I'm so excited. I am too. And then Margaret, talking about romance tropes. That's right.
We love
half,
romance tropes.
half of what I do is just talk.
That's just all I talk about. What's that thing that's going around TikTok? Half the time I spent
Oh, yeah.
talking about Regina, the other half of the time I spent trying to bring her up. That's
Yes,
me
yes.
with romance tropes. 100%.
Like forced proximity and romance myself. Excellent. You'll love the
Mm.
good part then that Kathryn is currently writing. So what, as far as you're in the process of writing the good part
Mhm.
right now, right? So
Mhm.
do you
Yes.
have a kind of deadline for yourself on when that's gonna be done?
I'm
Not
going to
to
be done.
pressure.
No, well, I'm hoping to be done completely with it by November the 30th.
Okay.
And then I will have it go out to, and that's like with beta readers. I'm gonna have it go to beta readers sometime early November, hopefully. And then I have an editor that is usually really fast, so it should be a pretty quick turnaround. And then it'll come back from the editor, and then it'll go off to my ARC readers. And then as of now, I have it January 18th, 2023. I had not set the pre-order up on Amazon yet, so that could change. Maybe like I might push it out like a week or two just to make sure I have enough time. But so far, I'm looking like we're gonna be right on schedule. So
Excellent. All right, so I see that there's some people here. So if you guys have any questions for Kathryn, by all means, please put them up. I'm gonna ask some silly questions. Well, not silly,
absolutely,
because some of
I
them are
love
not
silly
silly.
questions.
That they're very serious, because like for example, if you ever had your books adapted, like say you had a chance to get them adapted right into
Oh
film or
wow.
a show, what would you like, a movie or a TV series for your shows?
Um, so I think The Best Medicine would probably be best as a movie. I can't see that being, but the series that I'm gonna spin off from, I told you the good part, I'm gonna introduce a new series that's gonna run. I'm gonna be doing it at the same time as the Holly Tree series. I think that would make I think that would make a really good TV show, but we don't have to talk about that right now. But yeah, I think movie for Best Medicine for sure, and for the good part. Um,
So
but
like a
I do
movie
love,
series,
yeah, yeah,
like kind
that
of
would
like
be cool.
Marvel.
Oh yeah, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the Kathryn Bradley Cinematic Universe.
I like it.
That'd be
I say
crazy.
we should go for it. The Holly Tree part, then the
Yes, let's dream big, dream
that's what
big.
I say. That's all I do is drink. So with this other series, this one you said was going to be a mystery type slash thriller ish.
Yes, it's like I don't want to use the word cozy mystery because I don't, that's like a whole other genre, but it's like a romance mystery kind of thing, and it's set in the Smoky Mountains, and it centers around a family. that they raise cattle. My mom's family was heavily involved in the cattle industry in the Smoky Mountains and the Western North Carolina region. So it's kind of inspired by that. And basically, Asher has a connection to somebody, a very significant connection to somebody in that family. And it's spelled out in the good part. And then at the end of the good part, there's going to be an epilogue that teases that whole new series. But it's still very much Mandy and Asher's story. You're just going to get little hints and stuff of the new series kind of hinting. No, so I live, Holly Tree is in the Piedmont, and we're talking about this is going to be up near Asheville, Waynesville, that area. It's actually based on a town called Clyde, which is in Haywood County. But not the Holly Tree is the series that takes place in the Piedmont. Which is like, so North Carolina, I think I mentioned this, is broken up into 3 sort of regions. So you have Western North Carolina, which is like the mountain region, Central North Carolina, which is like the Piedmont, and that's like Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, all of that. And then you've got the Eastern, like the coastal region, which is like the beaches and stuff, the Outer Banks.
Yeah. Awesome. Admittedly, I don't know what any of that is because I haven't really been to North Carolina or not very familiar with it. I think as far as East Coast goes, I've been predominantly just in really Philadelphia because that's where my dad's family is. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, no. I've kind of lived here my whole life, so I like the idea of incorporating the state into the different series. I don't know what the plural for series. The different series.
Is series I?
Yeah, something like that. Series I. That's good. That sounds right. That sounds right.
Just reminds me of trying to figure out the plural for octopus, and I always go with octopi, and people are like, "That's not correct." I'm like, "It's correct to me." Okay, so
it sounds right. Yeah. Octopi. That's funny.
All right, so I feel like in The Best Medicine, we're also getting the beginnings of a friend group that is happening with the gals.
Yeah, the gals. Love a good girl gang.
Yeah, girl gang, right? So
yeah.
So my question is, who's gonna? I think I already know the answer, but who's the mama bear in the girlfriend group?
I think it's probably gonna end up being a little a cross between Blair and Rose, Leo's sister. Because Rose, I will say, I'm not gonna get too much, but Rose's book is gonna be last. So so she is gonna be the one kind of watching over. She's gonna be kind of she's one of my favorite characters so far, just because of what I've planned for her and stuff. But she is the one that kind of watches out for everyone, and she already is a mom, obviously. So she's already got all of the the instincts and everything, and so she's gonna be kind of watching over everyone. She's gonna play a big role in Gemma's book, obviously.
Excellent.
So it's a good question, though.
Excellent. I love it. Okay, we actually have a question from Margaret. When do you think write what you know applies and when it should not?
I would say and that's a good question. I think that if you're going to write something that you don't know, I think that you have to be prepared to do the work, like doing a lot of research. And if you don't have the time or I guess the motivation to do the kind of research, like again, this really applies. This really only depends on what specifically you're writing about. Because if you're just like writing about, doing a job that you've never done before, then there's a certain amount of research that can go into that can inform your process and the plotting and all of that. But if you're going to write, again, like we were talking earlier about a marginalized group that you're not a part of, and you want to write a character as a part of that marginalized group, then you have to be prepared to do the work, get sensitivity readers, do the research. And if you're not prepared to do any of that, I think maybe you should reconsider. That's what I would say. But I think other than that, writing what you know is always going to be like, if you can write what you know, definitely write what you know. But if you want, I don't think there's anything wrong with branching out and writing about things that you aren't familiar with. Again, research is very key to that.
Okay, excellent. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think there's certain things that you could definitely take creative liberties on. Like
Mm-hmm.
if someone's talking about like what is it, like physics is usually what people take the most creative liberties on, like the plane
Right.
is about to crash and yada 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 and all that. And I think
Thank you,
that's
Margaret.
good. But yeah, I think like you're saying is someone's lived experiences, and especially if you're
Yes.
not having those same lived experiences, are like something that's equivalent of, then definitely having things like sensitivity readers is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
completely agree with that. And you brought up beta readers, which is I think an interesting thing because I've heard a lot about that and I haven't really looked too much into it myself. But can you explain what beta reading is?
So beta reading is like, it's really just finding people, either whether like I have friends that I know from real life and my mom and my aunt that will just read my stuff for me. And then I also have people that I've met through TikTok. Like Daphne is one of my amazing beta readers. She was in here earlier. I don't know if she's still watching, but just people who you've, so it's like so there's like alpha readers and beta readers. A lot of people use alpha readers. I just use beta readers. It just somebody who will look at your work before you send it to like an editor, and they'll say like, I think it's good, or I think you should change A, B, and C. And they just kind of, because it's easy to get lost in your own work, especially if you're writing a big like 90,000 word novel. You lose perspective, I think, and because you're so in it, and it's I've gotten to places where I can't even tell if what I've written is any good or if it's bad. I don't know, because it's like it's you're all turned around. And so beta readers are a really good way of, I think, giving you perspective and saying, like, giving you an outside, like somebody who's just looking at it with fresh eyes, being like, I think this part's good, I think this part works. And I also think it's always good with beta readers to go in and say, this is what I want your opinion on. Like, I give my beta readers a list of like, I think 15 to 16 prompts saying like, okay, and not that they have to like write a paragraph or an essay for each one. It's like a lot of them were yes or no questions. But just to give you a fresh opinion, so you feel like you have your everything going in the right direction, if that makes sense.
That does. Daphne, it is an honor. Yay!
Yeah,
So
she's the
good to
best.
hear. Margaret, yep, completely agree. Writers to do no harm.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Margaret is a writer herself, and she said it's a familiar place. Is it bad? Is it genius? Who knows?
Who knows? It's really.
And I
I.
felt like,
Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
I was saying that is exactly. I know that feeling.
Like, granted, I write, but not a lot. Like, I'm
Mm.
writing something currently. Who knows what I'm going to do with that at
Oh
the end?
wow!
Probably just burn it or something. But
Never
like,
know.
I feel like as writers, especially as you're in the middle of the works, you read your work a lot, right? So
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's
everything
hard to
kind of
be
ends up,
objective.
yeah, everything ends up kind of being a little bit burned. Like, I've read this so many times that
Right. And when you're I feel like, and this is true for me, I'm sure it's true for every writer or anybody, any person, is I'm so much more critical of myself than I am of other people. Like the way I read my own work is so different from the way I read just like when I'm reading for fun. And so and I mean that's what it should be, because you should be your biggest critic, because I mean nobody else is going to be more honest with you than yourself if you know it well about certain things anyway. So but it's harder to like look at something that you've written in, because you want to read it and be like, if I was a reader reading this book for the first time, would I enjoy it? It's so hard to get yourself in that headspace, which is why beta readers are so critical to the process.
yeah, I love that. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we covered a lot of topics today.
We did. We
That
did.
was really good. I love the conversation with
Awesome.
you. So if you
Awesome. I
want
love
to
talking to you.
just Oh, no, sorry. Oh my god, I'm just such an interrupting Nancy. I'm so sorry.
What? No, no. I said I had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun as well. If we could end this with you telling people where they can access your book.
So it's on Amazon. It's on Kindle Unlimited, which means if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. Um, and I have another book out right now, Insignificant Others. It came out in March. I meant to mention that earlier, but you can also read that as well. It's on my Amazon. I have everything. If you go to my TikTok page or my Instagram, I have everything in a link tree. And also sign up for my newsletter for updates. And there's my Facebook group. And there's I'm gonna do a lot of. I'm hoping in the next few weeks to start doing sneak previews for the good part. After I make sure that what I have ready to go is, I can show it to people without having to go run away and hide in Antarctica or something.
Yeah, like I showed you this part, but I had to take it out of the books.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Now, if people wanted physical copies of your book, is that also going to be available on Amazon?
Yes, it's also available on Amazon and I've been working on getting this on my website. Well, on my on my website. I'm gonna have a limited supply of signed copies to sell of the best medicine. And that's gonna be going up on. Well, I'm gonna be doing it on Etsy, but I'll put all the information on my website this week. But yes, you can buy just regular old physical copies on Amazon, and the link is, like I said, in my link tree. So
Excellent. All that, by the way, is listed below in the description. I put all the links. I'll make sure to double check that I have everything on there, but I'm pretty sure I do. So please go check out Kathryn Bradley's newest release, which is The Best Medicine, and also be prepared for the good part. So we have this fantastic new series, guys, coming up.
awesome.
And to end us off, Margaret says, fun guest for the readathon. I completely agree. And yes, best of luck with the next book.
Thank you, Margaret. I really appreciate that. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, no, thank you so much for coming. And hopefully, we'll see you guys all next time.
Okay. Is that it?